When I was a couple weeks short of my 70th birthday, I started thinking about my mother's mother, who lived to be 100, and her mother, who lived to be 102, and my father, who lived to be 90, longer than anyone we had ever heard of in his family. I began to think that maybe our generation could be the first to routinely live to be 100. When I talked about this at family dinner one night, my granddaughter, who was 5, said,
"What are you going to do for the next 30 years, Grandpa?"
Hello, I'm Dr. Janet Price.
And I'm Gregg Kaloust. And we are Oldish. And this is our podcast, Oldish.
If you're oldish or know someone who is, please join us every week for conversations amongst ourselves
And our special guests
about what it means to be oldish in the 21st century.
If you ever wonder whether you're getting old, you're oldish. What are you going to do for the next 30 minutes? Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm oldish.
Hi, I'm Janet, and I'm oldish. Welcome to this episode of Oldish, Conversations on Aging in the 21st Century podcast. We're excited to have you join us today, and Greg, it's 2025. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, Janet. I have no idea how this happened, that it got to be 2025. It's like, wait, there aren't that many years.
I know. And as an oldish person, I'm fascinated that I keep on having that reaction. I've been doing this for 71 years now, and I'm still like, what? What is the date? How did this happen?
I say that to myself every single day. It's like, wait a minute, how'd this happen? How'd I get here? And where's the stuff that was supposed to be here? It's not here. I was not prepared and it did not predict the life that I've been having. Somebody was asking me the other day about what's your next year look like. And I said, I have no idea. I'm doing my best to give up the bad habit of trying to predict things. I really have no idea. Most recent example is the worst part for me, it's not for everybody in the world for sure, but for me, the worst part of 2024 was what happened in the United States politically. But I know for a fact that people in Ukraine and Gaza and Asheville, North Carolina, and lots of other places have a different opinion about what was worst.
This might be an interesting moment to look at what it's like as an oldish person heading into a new year, and what it's like for us in our 70s and beyond to be both looking back at and reflecting on the year, and also considering what is this new year going to be like in our 70s, and what are things that are similar to how we've experienced this change of the year, and what are some unique things that we're thinking about as oldish.
I'm not going to predict that 2025 will have anything untoward in it. 2025 is going to be the first year ever that was just, wow, that's cool. all the way through it.
So you're not predicting that, or you are predicting that?
I am predicting that. It's going to be 2025 is going to be the first year ever that's just cool all the way through.
Well, I just want to respond to that as far as some of the things we've said over the past episodes is, how do we manage what's going on for us externally, both politically, personally, health-wise, our adult children, book. I mean, what is it that we can look at that we're seeing differently?
Part of becoming oldish is learning that things aren't always what you expect, and how to go through them with resilience. And resilience is a primary characteristic of being oldish, partially because if you're not resilient, you don't get to be oldish, because you're either not here anymore or you're old. Resilience is really key, and it's to the good stuff, getting through the good stuff in good shape, or getting through the less than good stuff in good shape. So having learned that through 74 years of varying degrees of resilience or feeling resilient, that things are not going to be what I expect. So how am I going to respond to those things that aren't what I expect? Our podcast last year, for example, wasn't what either one of us expected, I don't think. It was better in many respects. It wasn't as regular or as frequent as we had hoped going into the year. But we talked to a lot of people. We talked to each other a lot. We learned a lot of things. We read a lot of books in the Oldish Book Club. We talked with a lot of people who had written books as Oldish people. We learned a lot. I did, certainly. I learned a lot in 2024 about how the world is, how oldishness is, how people actually are instead of how I expected people to be, how big-hearted people are. I'm constantly surprised by that one, how big-hearted people are. The media tells us that people aren't. The media tells us that people are selfish and mean. But the reality is just about everybody is big-hearted. That was a good surprise to come up with in 2024, and I expect it will expand going out. What about you?
The great surprise, as we were saying a minute ago, about as we are aging and we don't know what to expect and things are going on around us, as we saw in 2024, and sure can be surprises politically, personally, health-wise, to be able to be aware of the goodness around us and to be able to access that, which can look like looking for community, looking for ways to support and be supported, looking for ways such as meditation and being in nature and so many other things, ways to appreciate each moment, no matter what's happening. And maybe appreciate is too strong sometimes, as we've talked about in our podcasts before now, but maybe it's just being aware and accepting.
Is there anything particular that you can see in the rearview mirror of our podcast from 2024 that has put us in a good position personally, but mostly, talking about the podcast? Can you see anything from 2024 that you would hope we continue or discontinue or?
I was really happy with this past year with our podcast. Would like to do differently. One thing I'd like to do differently is to have more episodes, more consistent episodes. Something I know we've talked about over time, and I feel like we're both really committed to seeing what that looks like this year ahead. So I'm excited about that. One thing that would stay the same for me is the whole mission of this podcast. As we were talking before we started recording, I'm becoming more and more thankful that you and I decided to do this and started 2.5 years ago. And as we talk about being oldish and how important it is in the aging process to feel that you're doing something useful, to feel like you're connecting with other people. I know you and I have a goal in our own lives and with each other to share and bring loving kindness. I feel like those are all things that we can do, have been able to do through the podcast. And I'm just thankful that I can have that in my life at this moment and feel that it's an important goal to connect with others who are oldish in so many different ways.
I agree with that. And we have heard from some folks. I'm more than happy to hear from more folks. We have heard from some people that one or more of the episodes or the way that we talk about things has made a difference for people. I remember we got an email from a grandmother who was heartened by the episode that we did on long-distance grandparenting because she had been very upset because I think it was her sons and his family were moving away. And she was very upset about that. And then she heard our podcast on long-distance grandparenting. And we have decided that we're going to revisit that question and go deeper into that question on a podcast, at least one podcast in 2025. With any luck, we'll have Denise Reel back on again to talk with us some more. And we'll have other people who have some experience of the long-distance grandparenting. We each have deeper experience of long-distance grandparenting, the good news and the harder news. over the last year, that kind of thing where somebody reached out to us and said, thank you. That made a difference in my life and an important part of my life. And so more of that would be good. I hope we continue our focus on books too. I think one of the things about oldishness is you look around and I don't see kids reading, but I see older people reading. And that's been one of our focuses also with the Oldish Book Club and the authors that we've had conversations with. And I hope that continues. We've just done 3 of those exact things in the last 3 weeks, and only one of those podcasts has been published, but the other 2 are coming out over the next few days. The one that's been published was a conversation we had with author Amy Gilmore, who wrote a book about pickleball, how to avoid pickleball injuries. Don't be like me. Have fun. Get fit and make friends.
Have fun, stay active, make friends.
Well, that was close.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we really enjoyed our conversation with Amy. We just published that conversation last week. So if you haven't listened to it, it's not too hard to find because it's right on the top of the list on our website. And we just had a book club episode where we read a book by Terry McMillan called It's Not All Downhill From Here. And that was great fun. It was a great read. And we really had a good time with our friend Leslie talking about it. That will be published by the time you're hearing this. So take a look at that. And we also just had a conversation with Frances Reeves, who's written a book called Booming.
How to Thrive After 65 and Have Good S blank X is what's on the cover of the book. You all the listeners can try to figure out what that word might mean.
So that'll be published right around New Year's Eve, I think. So if you're sitting around the house all by yourself, feeling grim in your oldishness, check that out because we had a lot of fun. It was kind of like a New Year's Eve party, just the 3 of us hanging around and laughing, which is one of the great parts of being oldish. Might as well laugh at this point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We were talking a little bit about the political end of experience of 2024. And I think for me as an oldish person, it is seeing these loops politically, seeing that dictators come and go, countries rise and fall, committed, caring people, I hope, survive and thrive ultimately, but that there are dark moments. And it's been an interesting, like the fact that I was a young adult woman when the right to choose was passed, to be able to have abortions and be in charge of our own bodies, and then to live long enough to see that struck down at first was so depressing to me. And now I'm starting to understand more about this kind of cycle of history, the experiences of all of that. So for me, that was certainly a hard part of the past year, and also making meaning of it with a bigger perspective than I had when I was younger.
I agree with that. I'm cheering myself up these days with the thought that America is a great country, and it's built on a solid foundation of a constitution which lives and breathes, and that constitution, which was designed specifically to prevent dictatorship and kings, is strong enough and resilient enough that my worst fears about the next 4 years are not going to come true, that our country is stronger than I've given it credit for, and that'll be good. And also, I'm hoping everybody that listens to this, cross your fingers that on his way out the door, Joe Biden publishes the Equal Rights Amendment, because that will make the Constitution even stronger. It's been approved by 38 states now, and all that's left is for Joe Biden to say to the archivist of the United States to publish it. And then that's what it takes. I didn't know this, but that's what it will take to make it the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. Wow. And that okie dokie, you know? So if that happened, that helps a lot with a lot of other things.
Yeah. So we're looking back over our shoulder at 2024, and we're looking now at 2025 with hope. Some acceptance, some sadness, some grieving, some fear, and some hope.
And some hope. And to know that this year, like 2025, like every other year, we'll have a bunch of really good stuff and a bunch of stuff that's less than optimal. And at the end of it, many of us will be able to say, phew.
Yes. Yes. So I was thinking about, for me personally, in 2024, it was the first time I ever went to physical therapy. And I felt like I had joined an elite group of oldishness, since I've heard friends talk about different people talk about physical therapy. It's like, oh, I'm here. This is where I am. This is a marker that I'm in physical therapy now. Also, I look back at 2024 as a parent of adult children, and just the growing awareness of how I have no control over what happens in their lives. And sometimes I wish I could wave a magic wand and make things go the way I think they should go, or what looks to me like less pain, and then celebrating that they're who they are and who they each bring into the world and their lives. Work, I've enjoyed continuing as a psychotherapist this past year, and am again incredibly thankful that I get to do that work with people. And I just also thought about play, whether it's pickleball, friends, a new relationship, but there's things that continue on in our oldishness that covers the span of what we experience in our world.
Yes, that's a good way to go into a new year, I think, is with all of those things in your heart. I'm hopeful that 2025 is the year where we all remember to love everybody. And it's just a matter of remembering. You don't have to, It's not a big deal. You just remember, oh yeah, I love everybody. That's all it takes. I'm pretty sure of that. The grandchildren are just amazing and remarkable. Our children are amazing and remarkable in their own ways. And I'm happy to continue to watch my daughters grow and thrive and become the beautiful, powerful, independent women that we dreamed of when they were little kids. So very happy about that. Just on a personal note, after at least 70 years of saying to myself, I can write, I found a way at the end of 2024 to be in charge of publishing what I write. And so far, there's been a good reception to that on the Substack that I started, and that's made me very happy. And it's made some people back in distant times who also thought I could write. I know that it's made them happy, and that's good.
That's really good. It's such a fantastic oldish experience and message of keep on living, keep on being alive, keep on trying new things, keep on, and at our age, connecting those dots.
Yes. And just like the fabulous furry Preak brothers, keep on trucking.
One thing that's happened to me in 2024 is a growing appreciation for my parents. And I wish they were around and I could tell them. But after spending many years, tumultuous years of wishing my parents had been this or that, it didn't just start in 2024, but I think it came into fruition of, I really feel like, I'm going to spend the rest of my days, however long they are, just being incredibly thankful that I had the parents that I had. And also just feeling incredibly, here in my 70s, feeling incredibly thankful for this time.
Good. That's a good place to be. Well, as we're wrapping this episode up, I would like to say that yet again, one of the major highlights of my year has been spending this time with you, Janet, and having the wonderful conversations that we've had about things that I didn't know we were going to talk about. with other people that I didn't know we were going to talk with, and with ourselves who are different because of it. So it's been great. I am wishing you the best of the new year, and thank you so much for this past year, and let's keep doing it.
Let's keep doing it. I'm very, very thankful, Greg, that we started this conversation probably 5-6 years ago, and that we gave birth to it, and what a lovely gift to be doing this together. So I appreciate you and appreciate our podcast and our endeavors, our creative endeavors.
Yes, exactly. And not to mention our listeners. Our podcast it's not the most popular podcast in the history of podcasting, but there have been over 6,000 downloads now, and that's not nothing. So we know that a lot of people, including, I'm 100% certain, a lot of people that we don't know have listened to our podcast. And so
in a number of countries and states in this country. So that's exciting too.
Yep. Lots of places. So I know that it's people that we don't know, because the podcast has been downloaded in something like 1,100 places around the world. That's a lot of people. I don't know 1,100 people.
It is a lot of people, and I'm so glad you brought it up. I just also want to chime in and thank all of our listeners. You're joining us for these conversations, and that's what we hope for.
Yep, there we go. And Leslie and all our other guests who've come on and had very, very interesting conversations with us. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. It's 2025.
Woo-hoo. That's it for now. Thanks for listening to this year-end, year-beginning episode and all the old and new episodes of Oldish. Co-hosts Dr. Janet Price and Gregg Kaloust are happy you're sitting at a nearby table eavesdropping, but please consider actively joining us with a comment or a text or a guest or topic suggestion. It's easy to do on our website, www.oldish.me, and please tell a friend and post a like or review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps people find us. Tune in, if you know what that means, you're Oldish, next week for a surprise episode. And don't forget to love everybody.